Hey everybody, I'm KK.
I'm Kristen.
Together we are.
KK Crochet.
Welcome back to Talk About It Tuesday. And today we want to talk about craft markets and tips. Now, I have only ever done one or two craft markets, so I am not the knowledgeable person about this. However, as far as setting up to be a vendor. However, as far as vendor events, I have ran several. As far as the coordinator, I have coordinated several over the years. Craft events, just plain vendor events with food vendors and product vendors and craft vendors. Nothing but craft fairs with judging components, all of that. I've done all of it. Enjoyed every bit of it. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I am currently working on another one. So while I'm working on putting together this event and doing all the things that vendor coordinators do, I thought I would share with you some things, some tips for vendors from a vendor coordinator that might help a little bit. At least things that I try to make plain to vendors and things that I think they need to know. So one of the best tips I can tell you is that you need to ask about parking for the event. Where is parking going to be? Is parking free? Is there a designated parking space for vendors? And are there places I cannot park? All of that should be outlined in your application or your entry. If you don't have an application, then maybe a vendor group that you have. All of that should be outlined in the information that you're given. But if it's not, you need to know beforehand. Also, you need to ask, and one of the things about that as well is I would always have people ask, can I leave my car on the vendor grounds? And in my case, in the situation we were in, the answer was no. Because the vendor grounds was a certain space, and you only had space for vendors and walkways. So there was no way to put cars there. Not sponsored there, not meaning to show that. So, anyway, it is very important that you talk about that, because that was always a point of contention with some people, and I understand it, especially those with mobility issues, because I have my own mobility issues, but it is what it is in some spaces. Ask about internet for card reading purposes. If you're wanting to take payment through card readers or anything like that, or however, you may want to ask about internet. Where we are from, internet's probably really sketchy, and the one event that I'm getting ready to do, internet's really sketchy. I wouldn't rely on it. Let's see. Yarn fibers. Ask about foot traffic. How many people are supposed to be coming through here? And if it's a new event, obviously they won't be able to tell you that, but they could probably give you a guesstimate whether this is a small, medium, or large event. Ask about the space that's available. Does that include, is it a booth space? Is it a table space? Does it include space in front and behind the table? How much space is in front and behind or on the sides of the table? Do I need to bring a table? Do I need to bring what other supplies do I need to bring? Prepare for items in various pricing categories. I've seen this happen a million times at events. There are people who will come and give their children $5 and tell them to go find something. Especially if they have 7 children, a lot of children. Like we would have 3 children, so maybe we would give them $5 to $10 and say, this is your money to go find something. Then we would buy them food and whatever. But that would be our base jumping off point for let's not blow our whole paycheck here at this event. Because let's face it, everybody has to budget. So yes, take your more expensive items, but also make sure you have a range of items and that you have a line of smaller items that appeals to children or whoever is the go-to person that's coming to this event. Maybe it's not children. Maybe it's an all-adult event, and it's you have bikers coming through. Then find something that appeals to them. Maybe it is a pet-related event. Then find something that relates to that theme. Find out if there's a theme, or if there's if you're in a farm area, then it's farm animals and that sort of thing. So all of those things are important. As a vendor coordinator, it's important for you, I would say it's important for you to communicate ahead of time instead of the day of. 99% of problems happen when the communication has failed to happen before that day, and then everybody gets there and says, well, I didn't know. It should have been in your contract. It should have been in your application. Or you need to ask questions. Do I need to prepare, a lot of times in certain places, do I need to prepare to cover cords if I'm running electrical cords? Maybe if you're setting up and you're preparing things on the spot with electrical components like printers and things like that. If your cord is going to have to run a certain spot, then you're probably going to have mats or something to cover it for safety reasons, and that would be on you because you're the one that knows you're bringing that. Do I have electricity? I've had vendors before, well, I need 310 electrical spots. Okay. Sometimes that's doable, sometimes it's not, So you need to talk ahead of time and ask people. So that's just from the other side of things. Now, I have been a vendor at a couple of events, and honestly, these are all things that I have asked ahead of time, or knew ahead of time, or knew the coordinator enough to know that they knew what was going on, and I never had any issues. But communication is key. So I would say if you're going to set up an event, that those are some things that you might want to think about outside of the crafting part. Yeah, we all want to know, what sells best and all that kind of thing, and what is attractive to people. It's different for every area. I think I'm almost out of water. It's different for every area, and so you have to figure out what works for your area. But those are some questions just to think about outside of the crochet part of it that you might need to know that would make your life a little easier. Is there going to be food available for purchase? Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to take your own. Am I allowed to bring in stuff from outside? Some places may not allow that if they have food vendors who are there to specifically sell. I never had that problem, but maybe. You never know. Oh, one of the other ones is how many crochet artists are going to be there. In the events that I did, I was always careful to make sure we didn't have too many. Sometimes one is enough and two is too many. Sometimes 2 or 3 is okay, depending on the size of the crowd. So those are the things you need to ask in advance. You have anything to add to that?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe, I don't know, you covered space and...
Kristen has been a part of all of the events that I have done. We did vendor events every year for probably 8 or 9 years. So, and we're getting ready to do another one that I'm coordinating. So it's interesting to be on that side of things and try to put things together. It's nice to know both sides, and that way it helps you understand people a little better and what they're thinking about. Especially crochet artists, because I identify with them, and so I know kind of what their questions and concerns are. So that's all we have. If you guys have other ones to talk about for Talk About It Tuesday, let us know down below. Give us your hints and tips for things like that. And maybe you've never done a market before and you're thinking about it. I would say start small. Look for some of your local events. I know that not all of them are going to be gangbusters when it comes to selling stuff, and some of them are just going to be about getting out and having a good day. And sometimes that's the best way to approach it. So don't forget to be kind, because
none of us is journey.
Bye.
Bye.